Austin, pronouns he, him, calling in from Indiana, or just calling in from I don't know, is a deist who says that atheism is as rational as deism. Austin, you're on the line. How are you doing?
No, hi. Thank you for taking my call, Forrest and Aron. I really appreciate it. Been watching for a while, and I'm glad to call in and just talk about some ideas I've been tossing around basically for the last little while.
Mhm.
So my argument there was deism is as rational as atheism, and
Why?
Yeah,
I'd
so
like to give.
if we have no indication of a God and we don't assume a God, that would appear to me to be more rational than not having any indication of a God and assuming a God anyway. That
Right.
seems to be less rational to me.
So I have a little bit of just a very, very brief background for how I can bring up this argument, why I have this argument. If I
Sure.
could just give that, it'd be 30 seconds. So I'm coming at this from a scientist perspective. I have a master's degree in chemistry. I grew up as a theist, Baptist in the Northeast, and I've been on quite a journey through my skepticism, and through that journey, I've essentially reached a wall, sort of, where I don't believe in any sort of Christian, Muslim, any sort of God in that sense. But the quote from Werner Heisenberg, I think, really sums up where I'm at, which is the first gulp of the natural sciences of a Christian will. Hold on, sorry, I have it right here. The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist, but waiting at the bottom of the glass is God. So, so I've been studying science for a long time, and to me, when you get to the very bottom of the glass, the forefront of science, right, the Big Bang, all of that stuff, you get to a point where you can say everything came from nothing, or everything was created, and that's kind of like the wall I've hit on my journey of skepticism. And I would really like to hear what your guys' thoughts on that take is, essentially.
Yeah,
So I
well,
would-
let me help you out with that, because
Yeah, you go ahead.
cosmologists say that the universe was not created and it didn't come from
Mhm.
nothing. So we're going to have to go with option 3, that the universe was not
Okay.
created, did not come from nothing. There was never a point at which there was just nothing.
Mhm.
By one version, you can have in models of cosmogony that have a singularity, the singularity always existed, or meaning it was eternal, it was always there. Material energy cannot be created or destroyed. Universal wave function always existed, that too is eternal, so never created.
Mhm.
Or there's alternate hypotheses that it's something like not the Big Bang, Big Crunch, but something like that, a kind of an oscillating thing where there's a prior universe that contracts into
Mhm.
this pulsation to creating. And I know that cosmologists are going to be all over themselves I'm expressing the general idea correctly, but I'm not using the correct words, so that'll be their frustration with it. But in any case, it was never nothing. The universe didn't come from nothing. The universe wasn't created.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would also push back on that. So you're saying either it came from nothing or it was created. First of all, I don't think that's accurate. To parrot what Aron just said, it's when we talk about the singularity, when we talk about the Big Bang, we are talking about the beginning of not only space and everything, but we're talking about the beginning of time. So to say that it was created or to say that it came from somewhere, whatever like that, it's a logical question to ask. But when you actually dig into what the question
Mhm.
means, you're asking what happened before time, which is before the concept of before made any sense, in a place outside of everywhere, in a place outside of space.
Right.
So somewhere where isn't before time happened. What is there and what happened? That's a very weird question. And
Right.
so
Right.
but even if I agree with your dichotomy and say that it's either nothing or there's a God, God is not the null hypothesis. God is still a truth claim. It's still a positive assertion. So to say, even if I agreed with you and said, hey, I don't know what the fuck's going on back here, for you to then say, well, it has to be this thing that did the stuff, I could just as easily say it's some other damn thing or nothing at all, or that's just the nature of the nothing to do stuff or whatever. And I'm making exactly the same kind of assertion as you. They're all alternative hypotheses. The null hypothesis is there's nothing there. The null hypothesis is shit you can't, that you don't have to prove. God is shit you have to prove. So unless you have positive evidence for a God or a creator or anything before the Big Bang or any of that stuff, before you have evidence for that alternative hypothesis, you're blowing hot air. You're just saying, hey, I think this thing sounds pretty cool, and so therefore I believe it, and that's not good enough for me. It shouldn't be good enough for you either.
Yeah, the notion of a deistic God obviously isn't anything like any of the gods we worship on this planet. The deist God would have to be somebody who does not give a shit about this planet at all, because if he could affect anything anywhere, if he could right any wrong and had any impetus to do so, then I think that he probably wouldn't have let so many thousands of years go by with so many millions of people being murdered in some version of his name over people disagreeing over minutia where he is concerned, where it would be just infinitely easy for him to correct all of that, and yet he doesn't, ever.
Sure. And I agree. A God like that, most certainly, I think the Christians would be, way off base in worshiping. And sort of the way I think about that is, like, I have a fish tank, right? I don't give a crap what the fish do in there, right? I set up the fish tank, I set up the aquarium, all that stuff, all the parameters for them to live. They have no concept. Maybe they have a concept of me. I feed them every day, right? But I don't care what they do in there. That's kind of it. And again, when it gets down to to me, when it gets down to the very, very forefront of, kind of what Forrest was talking about, either the two possibilities, nothing came from, everything came from nothing, which I know you gave a very good argument for why that's kind of a silly question to ask, or a God created everything. That's where I'm at. Like, for me, I'm the God of my fish tank, right? I set it up and everything. And I think maybe it's religious trauma. I just have an issue getting over that.
Sounds like it.
Concept of, yeah.
So then apply the same, this should be the next question then. Ask the same question again. Okay, God created the universe. What created God?
Right.
Do you have a thought about it? Do you have an answer?
You ever been to a pet store and seen the beta fish?
The beta fish? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you see, so they always have the beta fish in these little teeny cups, because they're the only fish that you can put in stagnant water like that, and then they're okay. So that little beta fish in that little teeny Dixie cup, whatever, he goes and imagines that this planet was created just for him. But he's in a Dixie cup, and this is all he knows about the world. So he's going to make the assumption that the entire planet was created just for him. Meanwhile, the Christians and Muslims and so on imagine that possibly innumerable, but maybe 78 billion light years worth of observable universe was created for us, because we will die instantly everywhere but a fraction of the surface of this one mote of dust, and everything else everywhere else is too far away to get there alive. So how could this universe have been created for life? Clearly that is not the case. The most inept God imaginable could still have produced an infinite plane on which we could live.
Right. Right. That is true. It is.
I just want to ask one more time. Like, do you apply the same logic to your question to your God? Do you ask where your God comes from as well?
Yeah, I think there's kind of an easy cop-out answer there, where you can say, well, we haven't answered the first question. It's beyond human comprehension to imagine where a God came from.
Sure.
That's kind of where I'm stuck at.
So then, if you can apply that answer, or if you can ask that question of God and come up with an answer, why not apply that answer to the universe? It's beyond human comprehension to understand where the universe came from. It didn't require a God, but it's beyond your comprehension. Is that good enough for you?
Yeah. That's how Carl Sagan put it too. He said, Carl Sagan said that that the customary answer, where did the universe come from, was that it was created by a god or a god. Well, then you have to ask the next question: where did God come from? If your answer is that God always existed, then why not save a step and say that the universe always existed? There's no need to create the God to create it.
One less assumption to make. Yeah,
that's an Occam's razor argument. Right.
Well, is it not only that, but you as a chemist understand, like you can't just assume a thing, right? You have to be able to back it up.
Right.
And so like that's what I'm, you started this conversation by saying, you're coming at this as a scientist. And so, and forgive me, I don't mean this to sound patronizing at all. So forgive me if it does. I really don't. But I encourage you to actually do that. Come at it as a scientist and say, okay, so I don't know this thing. What am I going to do with that? Am I going to say I don't know? Or am I going to say, well, it's probably this, and then stop thinking about it?
Well,
like what
just to clarify a little bit, where I was really at was I was getting to kind of like, in the very initial start of my call, I said, Big Bang Theory, everything came from nothing, or a God did the Big Bang, right? And it's, to me, where I was stuck at was, it's 50-50, and maybe I'm mixing up probability and whatever, all that stuff, but that's kind of where I was stuck at, was 50-50. God did the Big Bang, or the Big Bang just came from something that's kind of a little bit beyond comprehension. We don't know that yet, and so that's kind of where I was stuck at.
So what, that's my biggest question is just I think that's a very honest answer. So then the only thing I don't understand is why then give that phenomenon that you don't understand a name, and why worship it, and why believe that it's sentient, and why add on all of this unjustifiable baggage that you don't have evidence for just to put a label on ignorance. It's totally acceptable. It's totally acceptable to just say I don't know a thing. It's just like with the last caller who said, there's these decomposing or these undecomposed bodies. Therefore, not just God's real, the God I believe in is real. And it's like, okay, but also that can just happen, right? Well, yeah, it can also just happen. So then what? And so here we are with this, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I appreciate your honesty and your brevity with it. Really, I do. I think you're being really, how do you say, direct about it. To say, here's this little pocket of something that not only do you not understand, but nobody fucking understands. We don't know where this is. And you're doing this extra legwork that I understand probably makes you more comfortable because of your upbringing. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is you're using a special new kind of thinking for this that I respect you enough to say, would probably never use any other time ever.
Definitely not in science. No, definitely not.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of despise the power of the church a little bit, because I mean, even in something that I understand so well, the scientific method, it's so powerful that just because I was raised that way, that no matter what I do, I can't I feel like I can't ever shake the idea that, somewhere along the way, we're not going to be able to explain something, and maybe God pops out of that. That's kind of the scary thing.
Were you listening at the very beginning of the show where Aron and I were ranting for a little while?
No, I popped in a little bit later. I didn't catch that part.
That's fine. I asked just because I didn't want to repeat myself to you if you'd already heard it. But the one thing that we talked about was the power of indoctrination at a young age. And the example that I gave was that we were lamenting people who say that religious people are stupid or crazy or any of these things. And the example that I gave was that if you taught a child that the moon's made of cheese and put them in a building every day, or at least once a week, where everyone sang songs and clapped their hands and chanted that the moon's made of cheese, and you taught them that all the good people believe the moon's made of cheese and all the bad people don't, and it doesn't matter what crazy claim it is, you're going to have the rest of your life, you're going to have that trauma and that baggage. One thing that Aron pointed out was I forgot who he was quoting, you'll remind me hopefully, is that, if you give me a child until the age of 7, I'll tell you what the man is like, because I can indoctrinate them really well up to that point. So yeah, what you're describing here is religious trauma. It's the same reason why every now and then my wife, who is very much as anti-theist as I am, every now and then still will sit up in the middle of the night like, shit, I'm going to hell. And then, oh, okay, never mind. Sorry. Just gotta calm down. It's the same reason why every now and then I remember my dad used to tell me all the time that when he dies, he's going to be there on this cloud looking down on me. And every now and then I'll do something cool. I'm like, hey, dad, oh, wait, fuck me. Never mind. You know, it's the same thing. It's indoctrination. It's trauma. It's someone lied to you as a child. And that's hard to deprogram. And, you know, give yourself some compassion for that, because fuck, man, lots of people are going through it.
Yeah.
And it's a very known phenomenon.
Or even worse, the church I grew up in, they would sit you down and say, some point in the future, somebody's going to put a gun to your head and they're going to say, do you believe in God? And you better say yes, even if you're going to get shot or not. It doesn't matter. You better say yes, because you're going to go to hell otherwise.
And then at some point you realize that nobody's really going to do that. It's just that religious people love to feel persecuted.
Yeah. Anyway, Austin, I really appreciate you calling in and talking to us, and I hope you call back and after you thought about it a little more, and let us know if you have any other insights or ideas about it, because I think that you like from your answers today and from everything you talked about, I think that this is a hurdle that you're. I want to start by saying I understand how fucking arrogant this is, and I apologize. I don't mean it this way. I think that this is a hurdle that you'll have no problem overcoming, and I think that you'll find your way out of that kind of trauma eventually. Like I said, I understand this sounds arrogant because it sounds like I'm so far ahead of you. I don't mean it that way at all. I think that
I get it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyway, have an awesome rest of your day, dude. Thanks so much for calling us.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Snow, Pokemon Master and executive producer on The Line. Would you like to support a specific show on The Line or The Line in general? There are special tiers on our Patreon and in our channel memberships. You can do just that. By the way, you could consider leaving a super thanks down below. You could also like, subscribe, and leave a regular comment. All of these are great. Now, I'm going to get back to crushing loneliness, but while I do that, why don't you check out one of these?